this is your trigger assembly. Basically, you can see here, you don't have to go all the way in, should be just flush and finger tight. Just unscrew that piece, sorry. You actually have a spring, backing, and just basically push this out. The O-rings that do wear out the most is actually the trigger, okay, especially on hand application, because you're always constantly triggering the gun. Once you turn it off, you're always triggering the gun to purge the tip and mixing chamber. Now, the O-ring that actually wears out the most is actually this one right here, the front one. And there's actually an indication that when it actually does wear out, you can actually take it out, you can spin it, and you can see that the O-ring is a little bit higher than the actually trigger itself assembly. But if you actually slide your air on, which is on this piece here, if you slide your air on and you actually hear air coming out of the exhaust port, that means first and second O-ring is wore out. That's actually an indication. Believe it or not, it does happen. So if it does, best thing to do is take the trigger assembly out and go ahead and replace all three. Now the reason why you want to do that, like I said, most people say, well, I'm going to run through the day. Well, you're losing a lot of that air pressure going through the exhaust port. You want the majority of the concentrated air to come through the gun and flush that mixing chamber out. Once you start losing that pressure, you actually are going to start getting start dirtying your mixing chamber a lot faster. So if you ever do hear that exhaust coming out, just stop, replace the O-rings. It's a lot easier. It's going to keep a longer life in production for that mixing chamber and spray tip. Okay. So once again, if you hear exhaust when you turn it on, that means air coming out of the exhaust. That's the first two O-rings are wore out. Okay. Now this is your main body. This is actually, you got an O-ring here, O-ring here. If you take a look here, once you turn it on, the air actually goes right in here and activates this trigger. So trigger on, it actually pulls, engages it backwards. When you let it go, it pushes it forward. Okay. Now the way it works, just to give you the inner components, it sits just like this. When you put the screws down, you have that spring that's right there that's pushing that side block, that side seal right onto the mixing chamber. That basically is how it holds that pressure in. It'll actually hold up to 5,000 pounds of pressure. Now, if you actually have a scratch right here or a scratch on it, the moment you open any of these ball valves, you'll actually have material just blow right out. So if it blows right out, that means you actually got an issue with the side seal or mixing chamber. Okay. Granted, like I said, I'll explain it to you a little bit more once we get back together when I show you the inner components. Okay. Now, this is the back part. This actually right here is your emergency stop. Basically, trigger on, trigger off. They actually put that on because a few years ago, actually a guy that actually been spraying for more than 5 years became a little bit overzealous. Basically put it on, had the air on, balled, and he forgot, and he grabbed the gun and shot himself in the chest. So that's what you don't want to do, because this material, once it mixes, it does pass 230 degrees Fahrenheit. You definitely want to watch out for that. Okay, so basically it comes right off, and then you actually use, the best thing to use is a ratchet, but I think we have a 10 millimeter. Actually goes right in here. Let's see if I can use this one here. Like I said, you want to use a 7 millimeter, but I don't have one at the moment. But this is okay, but you definitely don't want to do this. You really want to use the proper tools. 7 millimeter is the best. Keeps it from scarring the shaft. Let's just unscrew right here. There we go. So you really want to be careful. So just keep, what we'll do is unscrew this. And it feels like it's going to take forever, but it's actually a short thread. So once it gets to a certain point, then basically now you can grab your pliers and just pulls right out. Okay. So you can see there, you actually got a snap ring. Okay. And hopefully this will work. Sometimes, so what you want to do is just stick right in there. There we go. And just pull that right out. What you want to do is just set it on something solid and push completely. That comes out. So basically, here you go. Show those in a minute. There's going to be a time, but believe it or not, if sometimes people forget to clean. Okay, you have a rear hole that's right here in the back portion, and then you actually have one right in under here, which you can barely see, but it's back here in the trigger side. There's going to be time when you actually trigger the gun, and when you actually release it, there's a delay for it to come back. And if you have that delay coming back, that means that orifice that's right here and the orifice back here on the trigger side needs to be cleaned. Basically, it's getting clogged. So the moment you relieve that trigger, that thing should pull back as quickly as you release it, okay? So like today, I had a call. The guy's telling me that basically a delay on the trigger, on the release. That is the first indication they're not cleaning properly, okay? One thing you definitely want to do is just making sure, basically, when you actually do disassemble, if you want to make sure no scarring in here, you want to make sure your O-rings are good. The one O-ring that does wear out more than anything is actually this one right here. This is the one, these do wear out, but not as quickly as this one. This is the one you really want to pay attention to. If you look in your manual, it's actually this one right here, part 14. And you can see the O-ring 37. That's the one that does wear out, okay? So these here, like I said, they will last you a good while. And the other O-ring that actually does wear out is actually this one right here in the middle. Okay, that one right there. That's going to be this one right here. This one right here, which is going to be part 44. You definitely want to take a look at that O-ring. The best way to test it is you should have some type of resistance when you actually put it on. Okay, if it actually, you put this on and it feels kind of loose, best thing to do is just go ahead and replace it. Okay? Now, when you have a full disassemble, there's going to be times, believe it or not, it does happen. One side might overpressure, you pull a trigger, and you do have material that will cross into the gun. That's where these access ports come out, okay? If you ever do have that problem, best thing to do is do a full disassemble, remove all your set screws here, and what you'll want to do is use a propane torch. You want to heat up the entire gun. So basically, the area that you really want to pay attention is actually this one. You have a port that comes down and then cross. This area right here in this corner is where the material will build up. So you want to make sure, heat that up real good. Go ahead and use basically a long, you could use a toolkit, fix it, and just poke right in and poke as much as you can off. Then use compressed air and shoot every single hole there is. Now when you actually put them back, you want to make sure either put some grease on the threads or 1 drop of blue Loctite. What ends up happening if you do not do that, you're going to have air leaks all over this gun, okay? So basically, now when you're ready to reassemble it, you want to, like I said, once again, make sure if there's any scarring on the shaft right here, you want to use a green Scotch-Brite patch, just put it right here and just shine it back up, and it'll actually smooth this whole piece out, okay? Once again, this is the O-ring that does wear out, okay? Once you have it all ready to reassemble, just drop it in, use this piece, push it down, okay? And you will not damage the threads because it's actually a perfect fit, so it goes right in. Then you're ready for your stop, okay? Once again, this is the O-ring that you want to watch out for. Yeah, it does wear out. This one here, this is rare for it to ever wear out. Drop it in. Now, have a lot of patience when you're actually putting this one in because it's a perfect fit. I can't tell you how many people fight this. It makes me laugh. So like you see here, once you hear that huge click, that means you got it in. Okay, now you're ready for your snap ring. Just squeeze it. And there you go. And just drops right in. There's actually another set they have here that I did bring. That actually works better. But you want to make sure you put that snap ring in. Okay. Once again, you'll have this piece here, your piston. But of course, one thing you definitely want to do is you want to grease it. Always grease everything with white lithium grease. Okay. I don't have any here, but this gun is not even in service at the moment. But basically what you do is you grease everything up, drop it right back in, push that down. Use your 10mm ratchet would be better. Just screw that down. And what you want to do is keep screwing it. There we go. You got to keep pushing it down. This one is a little tough. There we go. Now what you're looking for is this rod right here, this piston. You want to make sure that it spins. Okay, see how it's spinning? Most people actually put a 7mm and give it a little torque. I do not recommend that. This is the aluminum body here. All it takes is just a little less than 1/8 of a turn and you just broke that thread. Your best safety for it is the moment it spins, that's all you need. You don't need any more than that. Then you're ready for your cap. Just grab your adjustable and just give it a snug. This right here does not have to be scorching tight, okay? Just remember that. This is your trigger assembly, same thing. You want to grease that up real good. Slides right in, long stem in first. Put your spring right on that portion there. Push it down, and this is your adjustable stop. This here, like I said, you just want it to have it flush. Just like that. Doesn't have to go any further than that, okay?